it made me like really sad, just like in general. Did you know the concept of Jimmy Neutron dates back to the 80s?
Yeah, the guy like had a bunch of early. I watched some video. You probably watched the same one.
I think so. It got recommended to me. But
That
that blew my mind, and it kind of made me think more about the deep meanings of life and the beautiful tragedy of it.
of the beautiful tragedy of Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah, well, just it starts as this guy's just this one idea that this guy has of, was it Johnny Quasar or
Johnny
something?
Quasar, yeah.
And then it becomes just like that, this sketch of this little big-headed boy and his metal dog turns into, all of a sudden, a TV show, and then millions and millions of dollars get put into it, and then it becomes a ride just for a few years later for it to die down, and then now it's replaced by the Minions.
It seemed like they were so hyped about it before the movie even came out. They like greenlit the series, and then the ride was like announced like as soon as the movie like hit.
Yeah, but it was making me think in these bigger themes of like you can't predict what things will be and how long they'll last. Like
Yeah.
like Jimmy Neutron was a big part of a lot of people's lives as children at least. And then you can't even predict how long it'll last. And it starts from this small idea and gets to this big thing, and then now it's like not bankrupt. The whole idea is, though, they're trying to reboot it, but you're going through stuff when like Jimmy Neutron makes you think about existential stuff.
I was thinking about it at that fucking show I was at the other day of just how like awful the opening band was, and I was just like existentially like, man, what does it mean to be good or like just because I was like, I'm sure these guys are passionate about these songs they're playing, and I'm sure they resonate with like certain people, but what does it
Right. Just the amount of care and work that goes into anything creative is like so big compared to other things. Like if you're a doctor or a lawyer or something, I'm sure they have the same passion, but it's easier to overlook the craft that goes behind a stand-up comedian's joke, or something like, yeah, a ride at Disney. That's what I love about. That's like my favorite stuff is pieces of work that have all this. It can be appreciated by like little kids, but also if you dive underneath, you notice, like SpongeBob is kind of that way.
Yeah,
It's really funny,
definitely.
but then there's these little jokes put in there, and just the amount of care and work that goes into it. For it's like it's like super noble in my mind, just being creative and doing stuff like that, because you'll put so much work into perfecting some little thing, and for it to go unnoticed and someone just be like, oh, that's cool. Like I remember playing Mario Odyssey, and there's the there's the stage where you can go. They have those little quick portals. You'll go through the painting, and then all of a sudden you'll go to a further world that you haven't unlocked yet.
Right.
And I think I was playing it with you, and then you go, and then you can see the original uh, Mario 64 castle, and you're like, oh shit. And that I remember that making me like tear up. Just something little like that. Just this tiny detail. Just the whole experience of it. Like so many hours and probably so much thought went into that. Just how someone would encounter a an experience like that, or just a little moment. And in my mind, it makes me emotional, but then some kid would just be like, "Oh wow, look, it's the castle."
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of people that was like their first or second Mario game or something like that, and they probably don't even have the awareness of what it meant like for you when you first played the first 3D Mario game in existence, and then just playing a new one and seeing how far everything's come from such a little like castle little thing, you know? It's like interesting that they yeah, they take the time to put something like that in, and I think it's really only for that reason, you know? They have no other reason to just be like, "Oh, check it." I guess maybe just like a nostalgia catch or something,
Right.
but I think they probably meant it like the way you digested it.
Right.
I think ultimately this like my goal in life, if I'm like trying to be having a creative outlet, I think is to be like that, like uh the most eloquently skilled at describing what I'm trying to come across with in my music or
Right.
my or anything, you know what I mean?
I
Especially when I'm like trying to talk at a podcast setting right now, you know, I'm trying to like finish a sentence and have it describe the way I'm.
right. Yeah. I think the bigger thing too with the Jimmy Neutron existential crisis was just the amount of those people that like probably hundreds of thousands of those ideas everywhere that don't lead anywhere. Like how many Johnny Quasar sketches are there that become, and that was what was so cool. I always talk about Disney and stuff with it, but going to that museum and you see the original sketch of Mickey Mouse, and then you're just like, oh man, this
Yeah.
tiny sketch turns into he creates like worlds now. And
Yeah.
like who would have thought that that would become that?
Yeah, could you imagine somebody at like a dive bar or a gas station like showing you a picture of like a scribble of a mouse and like, no, listen, so he's got friends and like he's got
Right.
like
Because yeah, he worked at a jelly factory, didn't he?
yeah, what if he was at some jelly factory like, no, no, listen, he's a mouse, he drives this boat and like he's
That's what
whistling
makes
it.
you. That's what makes you think about like some random guy that'll come up to you at a show and tell you he sounds like Eddie Vedder when he sings,
Mhm.
and you like bat you're like, oh, like screw this guy, he's weird. But then what if that guy actually is Eddie Vedder?
Yeah, and he goes on to become a yeah, Scott Stapp level of Pearl Jam worship or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
and I think that also ties into why I think stand up is so powerful to me lately, and probably to you. But you watch you watch these bits that come off as, oh, Bill Burr is just going on a rant. He's just being goofy. But deep down, you know, like when they talk about the craft of it, you know, every specific pause, every specific phrase, you know, he went back and forth, changing it up, changing the pacing of it. Even like Andrew Dice Clay did that. Like he sounds like he's talking out of his ass, which he is most of the time, but there's just certain things that it's that's what I don't even know where I'm going with it, but I think that's just yeah, like my goal is that kind of thing. Coming off as super casual, but it's really like such a methodical thing. Just the amount of craft is unmeasurable, and like people the common person won't even notice. Like
Right.
everyone laughs at they'll watch some stand up bit and they're, "Oh, Dane Cook is funny. Dane Cook is really funny." But they don't really it's crazy that they don't really know why they're laughing, which that's the beauty of it. It's like if you're doing your job right, you can't tell almost.
Yeah, I think you shouldn't be able to see like the through lines of like where their thought process had brought them to that point. You should just be like reflecting whatever you're feeling onto their art, or you know, that's like the thing about stand up, yeah, that I've it's not even like I am super obsessed with like digesting as much stand up as possible. I think it's like just I'm in awe of yeah, just being up there with a microphone by yourself and making an entire audience like become on this, you know, all be on the same page and laugh at the same exact thing at the same time seems so impossible to me. I don't know. I can't imagine.
Right. I also think it has to do with the way the musical landscape is now, to where it's a lot of there's not a lot of what I'm looking for really popular right now, and almost I feel like I go to stand-up comedians for the same feeling that I was getting from these really exciting bands back in like 2010s or whatever, like all these cool like punk bands or something.
I
But
was
now,
thinking.
but now rock music isn't as big now, and it's like Bill Burr is the new Death Grips, or I guess.
I was thinking like I feel like my exploration in music and when I was younger being like blown away by uh certain bands, and now that I'm older those same kind of bands don't really like impress me as much. I think just the way I've grown in my knowledge of the way things work, it's harder for me to be uh surprised by like the turn of a song or an album or something like that, and I think that probably like plays into my apathy when it comes to like like modern bands and stuff, because it's harder and harder for me to be caught off guard because I've just listened to so much being older
Right.
now, where it was like like when I first heard White Stripes I like never heard something like that, but now it's like I've heard a million White Stripes bands, and it's like I think a sign of my growth as well as like just an evolution in the way bands uh present themselves, or even just the change of the times, and like now that rap is so popular. But I
Yeah.
feel like I dive into those sort of things when I'm like unfamiliar with them, and maybe that's why that kind of new weird music excites me more than like an album from a band that I've heard for 10 years or
Right.
something like that.
It is. It. I had been thinking about that lately. Like, I, you could go any path, and you'll be fulfilled. Like sometimes I don't. I don't even necessarily. We've done music our whole lives, but sometimes I don't think. I don't think I was made to be a musician. I think it's just like my personality lends itself to that. Like sometimes I
Right.
wish. I mean, I'm still young or whatever, but sometimes I do. It's like I almost get more satisfaction out of like making people laugh than music. And sometimes I feel like we try to, when we play together at least, we try to approach music in kind of that way, like
Mm-hmm.
being funny. Like even in my classes and stuff, I feel like I have to like I've built this like all throughout the semester. I've been doing presentations like each week, and I started building this rapport of, because I was always the introduction, and I would make these really funny like intros, because I know as a student, like, oh, no one cares about this. Everyone's just trying to get through it. So I was like making these funny introductions, and then I started I started feeling the pressure of that each week. I was like, oh gosh, I got to think of something next week. But it was really fun, and then I was almost it sounds like I'm smelling my own farts or whatever, but I was even just like a funny intro to a presentation on like some accounting software for my business class. I was
Uh-huh.
trying to find ways to make people laugh, and I got such a thrill out of that, and I think I get that through social media too, which I almost feel
Yeah.
like I screw myself on that, cuz then it's like you build this, and I guess that's just social media in general. You build this image, or you build this expectation with, like yesterday I posted about listening to the new FK Twigs song, and then I see all these people looking at it, and I'm like, oh, they were probably expecting me to do some dumb like
Right.
jokey thing, and then I was like, oh god, they're probably just like, what?
I think like I was the same way in school where I didn't it it took no effort to like take it seriously,
Yeah.
and I was like I don't know, like I always found myself doing projects that just had like a little bit of a dumb sense of humor just to like make myself laugh through it. I remember making like building this app for this this app design class I had,
Mm-hmm.
and I just like I made it like this like journey through music, and I made this page that just had like MIDI songs of like Jimmy Buffett and like Fergie, and
Yeah.
I remember being presenting it to an entire class of like 20 people and like clicking like clicking a picture of Fergie to like to trigger her like MIDI version of Fergalicious or whatever I put on it,
Yeah.
and to like 20 people in the class, and I'm sure none of them thought it was funny, but I did at least. And just the thought of them being like, why the fuck did that kid put Jimmy Buffett on
Yeah.
this?
Dude, I remember I had a class with Jordan in high school, and we did a group presentation together, and it was the most uncomfortable thing ever because we were doing these terrible uh PowerPoint slide transitions that were so slow and awkward, and we were laughing so hard when we were making it. But in class, it was just like dead silent. That almost made it more funny though. But yeah, like it's crazy even when you get into college, you start to see I had that actually this thing today because I went to it was one of my last classes. I had to take a quiz, and you go through you're so stressed during the semester, and you're like, oh man, this is such a big deal and all this stuff. But then once everything's said and done, your professor's like chiller about it, like all cool.
Right.
And it kind of makes you think, you're like, oh, like they know this is not that college is bullshit, but I don't know.
Kind of
What
is.
was your entire like has your relationship with college or your thoughts on college changed since you like how did you feel during it and then also like at the moment?
I, looking back at, now that I'm like 5 years out now, pretty much, it's like, I don't regret like spending my time there at all.
Yeah.
And I think I learned a ton about just life, and as far as the courses I took, I paid attention, so I collected all the knowledge that the degree allowed me to collect in my different classes and things. But I definitely also 5 years from then. Oh, now Mom's calling me in the middle of our podcast.
Yeah, she was texting me.
But yeah, I don't regret going or spending like 4 years of my life there, but I definitely, looking back, don't think it was a necessary thing to put me where I'm at now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it was like important for my growth and the things that I want to do or the things that I wanted to learn or experience. But I don't think it's, yeah, I don't think people that say, oh, college is bullshit. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of bullshit things about everything. You know, there's a lot of bullshit things about getting drafted into the military and going through that, or like
Right.
going to a trade school or getting a GED. Like, it's like every path is bullshit, you know?
Right.
Just,
Yeah, I almost feel like because I've been in school for longer than I would like, but I think it is due to it's important, but also not as important as you kind of build it up to be in your head.
mm-hmm.
Because I remember, yeah, the first few years being, I mean, I'm still, of course, always going to be stressed about what you want to do in your life, but you're thinking, oh, what do I want to major in? What do I want to do this? But then you kind of got to realize that, yeah, like you say, there's bullshit everywhere in life to where it's just getting in and getting out is good. And there's definitely value in whatever you study. I always hate the whole elitism with it. Like, oh, you're majoring in this, you're majoring in that. It's like, it's all valid
Yeah.
in my mind, but it's just valid in different ways, you know?
Yeah, I think people that are like, oh, well, you just fucking threw your degree away. You should have gone for like engineering or something. It's like, well, I didn't go to college so that I could do something I wasn't interested in just for the fact that I would have some sort of leg up in an engineering environment or something.
Right.
It's like,
So would you say you got more out of like when you moved to Austin than you did college? Like, would you say that's like a comparable thing? Like, what has that?
it's definitely comparable.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to my own certain university right now, as
The
far
University
as
of Life.
the University of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
School of Hard Knocks, you know?
But yeah, I mean, we've like sort of talked about, because of course we've gone to Austin and we've gone to Texas like throughout a good majority of our lives, but like I mean, you always wanted, I mean, we've talked about wanting to move there, but what was like in your how long's it been? It'll be 3 years in
Uh-huh.
December.
Yeah.
So what was the main thing that kind of like in your head made you go, "Hey, I'm gonna do this"?
Well, I remember coming with you and Dad for a long time uh, for ACL and spending a lot of time here every single year. We would come annually for what, 9 years consecutively we went to ACL.
Yeah,
And maybe 7 or 8. I can't remember. But it's funny, I went back, like one time I went back to my Instagram when I first moved here and was like looking at old ACL pictures and stuff, and like when I first got to Austin, and one of my captions on a post from like 2009, it was like a picture. I just took a picture of like a fucking telephone pole on like South Congress with like
yeah.
show posters and wherever we were. And I wrote like the caption was like future home.
Oh yeah,
Like so in my head I didn't even think about like me thinking about it that far back, but I obviously was like, oh man, I'm going to live here one day. And then like I moved, well I graduated college and I
hmm
was working at FedEx in the warehouse pretty much for chump change, and I was living at home, and then I and that was not going great.
yeah,
And so after a couple months I decided to move in with Casey and Mike because I kind of wanted
that
my
was the house
own.
in Sanford, right?
Yeah, and I kind of wanted my own space, and we were recording and we were playing in bands a lot more. And I think that's when like my music sort of ethics started kicking in a lot more. I
Right.
think, like I was still playing a lot in
hmm
college, but I felt like I was really like putting an effort forth when I was living in Sanford. And then I was like in a relationship, and then it ended, and I was feeling really shitty about myself in like all kinds of regards. Not necessarily just because of that. It wasn't like I was
Yeah,
like, and it's not like it was like the end of the world when that thing ended, but
but you
but
kind
it
of felt
definitely
like
made
a
me
lot of
feel
stuff
like
was up in the air,
it made me
like
feel
in
like
that sense.
everything was up in the air, and it felt like I was kind of just like farting around with my friends in a way, and I was like, what kind of like dramatic like kickstart can I put into my life where I'm not going to feel like I'm just chumming around and having
hmm
mom constantly call you a blah 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 so and so. I'm not even going to.
We love you. We love our mom.
We love our mother. I see that she left me a voicemail, so I can only imagine.
She texted me while we're recording this.
But I think that was like just a thought entered my head of like maybe I should just leave town. And
Yeah,
like the first thing I thought of was like Austin, Texas. I was like, I spend so much time there, and I kept saying like one day I'm gonna move there. One day I'm gonna move there.
right. Yeah,
And then
that.
I was like, yeah, I'm living in Sanford and I'm paying my bills and I'm like doing everything super independently, and now I'm like kind of by myself. I don't have a job that I am like super tied to. And then like at that point I was working at FedEx and I could transfer. The transfer slip was like half a page, just like
Yeah,
what's your employee number and where do you want to go. So I just filled out a transfer slip to get to Austin, and I said, yeah, I'm going to leave in December. Like I wanted to be there before New Year's. Just like it was all like just some I have these weird like symbolic things in my head of ways to like set goals that aren't like super profound in any way, but I'm like, if I'm like in downtown Austin when the clock hits like midnight of 2017, and
yeah,
I'm like I just felt like that was like in my head. I was like, okay, well that means I'm like setting a goalpost where I'm like, wow, I'm really like setting off. And now it's
yeah. I could see that. Yeah, that's a cool feeling because then that's something you can look back on now. Like, oh, New Year's, right when was it? What would it be? 2017. right?
Yeah, I left like right before New Year's in 2016, like the 27th or 28th of December.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, because so when you moved, it was obviously, I mean, hard, probably harder for you, but it was hard for me. But now I'm really glad, and it's like we're not able to do. I mean, we obviously talk. We record podcasts by the week. We just don't record them, you know.
Right, right.
But I mean, it was pretty hard at first adjusting to that because not having my boy with me. But I at this point I'm like happy you're there, even though I'd rather you not. It's like I'm happy that you did it because I remember specifically we played that last show. I think it was a week before you moved.
Yeah.
And we played with Tonstart's Bandit, and that was a really cool thing. And I remember, I think, I think like Casey was on stage or something, or someone said, "Oh, Riley's moving to Texas," and someone that I don't even think we knew. He was like standing next to me, and he's like, "Oh, he'll be back. Oh, he'll be back." Like being an a-hole about it.
Really?
And then in my head, that was the thing where I was like, "Oh yeah," I'm like, "Dude, move."
It was probably Bob.
I bet that, yeah. No, because I remember it was a random person that I don't think any of us knew.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it could have been Bob. No, but and then that was kind of just like, I don't know if it's me projecting onto you, but that was almost a thing where did you feel like you did it just so you could say like, "Oh, I did it"? Because I know
Yeah,
for a fact,
exactly.
I know for a fact that dude probably didn't do it. He's probably been in the same house since he said that. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, screw you. Even if things don't work out, if you make this big move to a new place or a new whatever it is in life that you do, the fact that you did it and that you tried is like awesome to me.
Definitely. Yeah. I thought that was exactly my mindset. I was like, I don't set out to like follow any sort of like mold of like where I should end up, when I get there, but I just want to be able to say that I tried to do it and made it work out. And now it's 2019, and yeah, it's like it's been like nothing like I thought it was going to be, but at the same time it's been amazing in other ways too. And I've surprised myself in the positions that I've put myself in since I've got there.
Yeah.
And I've also like disappointed myself with how far I've come too. It's like, I don't think it's like changed my perspective on like what I would have been doing if I stayed at home either. But I'm glad, like, but also the same thing with that guy. If that guy said that, it's like, I was talking to Casey, who you said was the one that said I moved, when I invited him to move in when I had an open room.
Right.
And he had moved to Austin, but then he ended up getting like a lot of really cool tours. And I think like to make Austin his home base when he was like trying to get on the road a lot more, it didn't make a lot of sense right away.
Yeah.
And he moved back home, and I was like, man, are you like, are you like excited to be back? And he was like, and he said, yeah, he said it never felt like when he moved back, it was like he was, moving back to Florida with his like tail between his legs. Like he still felt like he like leveled up from where he was because he made that trek. And I was like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. And it made me feel a lot better about eventually maybe moving back or going somewhere else, because I think like I'm in this weird position where, like you said, you miss, you're bummed that I made it out here, but like imagine like yeah, how I feel, where I like literally like
Oh yeah.
had to make 100% new friends. I had a couple of people I knew from Orlando, but it's interesting the way I've built relationships with people that I knew back then that like have also like made the trek out here too. People like my friend Dave or my friend Brian and Waylon, who I feel like I'm way tighter with now than I ever would have been if we just were both hanging out
Right.
in Orlando all the time.
And it was honestly, it's made an impact on me too. Like you moving away, then it was this whole thing of, oh well, now I'm doing stuff. I think that I'm getting out there more in different ways and learning. Because yeah, like we've played together this whole time, and I've been playing music with other people, which is a different experience. But it also, the move cemented how we always talk about how us making music and us doing stuff together really feels so natural and feels so real, to where it's, I mean, it kind of sounds bad, but once you left, I feel like I had no reason to be involved in music and like the creative like aspects of Orlando or whatever. And
Uh-huh.
that was almost sad, but also just like, oh, I know I'm not doing it for the wrong reasons. I know it's like I genuinely like doing this, and it's because it was with you, not because like, oh, dude, let's go to Stinky Pete's entertainment hall or whatever,
Yeah.
and
It's funny.
drink PBRs and wear our denim jackets and look cool.
Yeah, I think
Which I do all of those things, but still.
I think it's important that like we've kind of stepped out of the comfort zone of that. Yeah, like we're putting ourselves in situations where we're like, oh, well, we have to like deal with other things that we don't necessarily want to, and we have to like learn these sort of things to do. Where in Death Tremors we were like kind of in our this comfortable enough to like not uh deal with other things. You know what I mean? It's like it's cool that we get to like uh experience other band bullshit because we never had that. you know
Right. Yeah, yeah.
yeah
But
and
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and I think yeah, I don't hate doing it without you, but I also realize the importance of having that sort of like familial connection to the people that you're working with and collaborating with in that way. That is important, I think.
Right.
uh Before you try to present yourself in front of other people, you need to be like really comfortable with like the way everybody's putting their 2 cents in, and comfortable in the way that you guys all work together and handle, money or like disputes about promotions or like anything like that. And
Right.
I think you only get that from dealing with new people rather than like us having it easy by doing whatever we want in our garage and not having to really give a shit.
Right. But yeah, it's like, I guess it is just a byproduct of getting older. It's just you do these things and now you think of it in deeper ways.
Yeah.
Like you even since the time you moved. Like I remember I was just like I would just be sad. But then once you like just reflect on it and think about what it means on a bigger picture, like what when you first moved, were you thinking of like what you would learn through it, or were you just like I'm going to do it, and then once you got there, like what's the biggest like takeaway you've like, do you feel like you've gotten more than you expected or less or
I think you're given this like narrative by whatever you're into. Let's just use my example because we're talking about me.
yeah.
But I really just want to play music and play drums and like do all of that for the rest of my life, which I came to a realization with because that was like all I do and all I really care about. And when other things come into my life, I don't take them as seriously. It's weird that I don't get as much excitement out of like fixing a car or like it's always been just music, and I wish I had a bit more of a wide palette, but I don't. And I think you're kind of given this idea of how you need to work your way up in order to like make a living or be satisfied with your output as a musician or an artist. And I
Right.
always thought of Austin as this like mecca for that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I think like the most important thing I learned was like it took off those like rose-colored glasses of like how things interact or work in a place where music business does exist, because in
Right.
Orlando, it was kind of this vacuum until people like Hannah and Nicole stepped up and did something cool, and like now a couple other people are around, but it was kind of this void, and now you get to a place where there's a lot of really exciting things going on, but then you also like see the other side of it being kind of gross and shitty and sort of uh, high school cliquey in some ways, and also like
Yeah.
a lot of ego and a lot of like uh, nepotism, but at the same time, like uh, getting really genuine experiences about being on on a stage that works every single night to provide like this really
Yeah.
awesome, it's like not like some hole in the wall and like on Mills or whatever, it's like an interesting bar where you're like, we're playing. It's weird, like um taking it a little more seriously, it kind of takes the fun out of some parts of it, but it also like excites you to build like a brand in a way or something like that, with the
Yeah,
naked
exactly.
with the Naked Tongues. I had like absolutely no expectations. I was like in the band as soon as I got here, and I didn't know them at all. I just knew them through Seth, like our mutual friend, and getting to like experience Austin through the eyes of like a brand new band of people that like didn't have any ties to anybody in, and just like throwing ourselves out there, and like where we're at now, it's like really interesting to see which little things work and which little things don't, and like kind of how random it is at times. And all of that stuff plays into the way I feel about the move. Yeah, it's like, man, I didn't accomplish some of the things that I thought I would right away, but I also like learned that I had a lot more to figure out before I
Right.
accomplished those things.
So yeah, I was bringing it up as a positive thing, the moving to Texas, but would you say like it was the most challenging period of your life, like so far, or
Yeah, definitely. It's like causing me to really have to think about what I've been putting my efforts towards,
yeah,
and like what I've been putting my where my strengths and where my weaknesses are, and how willing I am to change some of my weaknesses, and how willing I am to present my strengths in
mm-hmm.
confident ways. And I suck at both of those things, and I'm learning it, and it's disenchanting, the idea of working in certain environments, but it's also
Right.
yeah, so it's probably the most challenging time of my life right now. I think like just because of the way my head works, I am constantly battling my own like
Yeah. What
insecurity with
did
where
you
I'm
have?
at, or like
Did you have something that you turned to or you did to make you? Because I've had like there was a period a couple years ago or maybe 2 years ago where it was a pretty dark period. It was when I was like, I think I almost flunked out of a class and I was feeling like a loser. And then this year has been pretty challenging for me so far. But
Mhm.
would you like was there something you did to make yourself feel better about it or?
Yeah, well, I think last year specifically was like just a really shitty year. I just felt
Mm-hmm.
like I really like didn't feel good about myself. I felt really really awful because I'm like, I said I transferred FedEx to get here just so like I had a comfortable paycheck in order to live when I got here, and it had a little bit of security. But then I was, putting myself out there and trying to get cool jobs, and like nothing was coming through, and I was like still at FedEx, and I was like
Yeah.
kind of like playing these crappy bar shows all the time, and just like working in a warehouse. And then I was playing like all these South by gigs, and then
South
this
by Southwest for the
for
non-Austinites,
the non-Austinites,
the non-music heads,
the non guitar geeks, rock and roll geeks out there,
gearheads.
gearheads, rock nuts. But yeah, I went through this week where I was working like a dog because I was working overnight, and we had like 8 shows. You visited that week.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
other friend, brought uh, somebody through, and I ended up like having another friend crash, and then like the venue down the street dropped off all those British people on my floor, and like
Dude, that was insane.
yeah,
The dude
and
with
then
what? You have alopecia or something, or
yeah, he
is
was
that is that what that's called when you have like no hair?
yeah. Well, I've made the I'm all friends with them on Facebook now, and he has hair
Or
again.
he was
I don't
just a
know.
weirdo.
He's an interesting. They were all super
Dude,
nice.
they were super nice.
And their band is cool. I looked up their music after I met
Mm-hmm.
them, and they were really awesome. If I ever make it to England, I'll definitely hit them up.
Where do they live? Is it like Manchester or something?
I think it was somewhere like outside of London. I can't. I'm not. It's like
Blokeville?
now I'm blanking. Like, is York in London or is that
Probably.
Ireland? I think it's like York or
Sounds
something.
like
I
it.
don't know. But
It's probably
anyway,
Blokeville or in its town.
yeah. But I was like really stressing myself out, and then I uh, I ended up getting offered that FedEx driver position,
Yeah.
and I went and I was like, oh, okay, well that'll be like really good because I'll finally start making some money, and then that bomb stuff happened in Austin at the same time that I was
Oh, dude, I
transitioning into
forgot
a
about
driver
that.
position. Yes, so I had like this bomb scare at the warehouse that I had to
Yeah.
deal with, and like it ended up being like a safe evacuation and everything, but like the way it was treated like really rubbed me the wrong way, like not even
Didn't they
not to
not
be
tell you,
rude,
or
but like
they were gonna have you like still work?
yeah, they were aware of the situation because the bomb went off in San Antonio like at like 1 a.m. and we didn't clock in until like 2:45. And then like I didn't find out about it until like an hour and a half into the shift when a coworker told me that his friend who worked at like a security cam monitoring company that FedEx San Antonio had a bomb go off. So then I went over to my management and they told me like, oh, well, just go back to work. We're not accepting any trailers from San Antonio. And I was like, but all the other bombs were in Austin. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no way that, there's no way that the bomb in San Antonio didn't come from like our warehouse or our like trucks, you know? And they were like,
Right.
we're not taking any more trailers. And I was like, well, I don't want to go back to work. I'm not going to like handle bombs for like $12 an hour or whatever. I'm not on the front lines. And I was like thinking about like, man, this person that's like middle level management at a warehouse at 2:45 in the morning is like telling me to go back to work, and not even to like insult the people that were management there, but I felt like they really misstepped in the way they handled it, and I think it like
Mm-hmm.
really
Yeah, dude,
set
that's
me off
freaky.
on like the way you think like about like all these tragedies that happen and stuff, and like how probably their day was just going like every day, and how
Mm-hmm.
monotonous it probably was, and they were probably upset with like imagine like being at that venue in Paris when those like ISIS people mowed down, like that sound guy
Mm-hmm.
was maybe like hungover or sad or something, and then all of a sudden he's just like getting gunned down, and you're like, wow, I've been like working this menial job for 4 years now, and all of a sudden I'm just gonna blow up inside of it. And it was like kind of freaked me
Yeah.
out. And then I got put in the FedEx driver position like with this like kind of sour attitude already, because I was like, I didn't feel like I wanted to be there anymore, but then I just took the job anyway. And then it started really fucking with me because then I was like really hating the job because it was so hard. And
Yeah, man, that sounded awful. The like
and there
getting attacked
was
by dogs by the week.
I got attacked by dogs. I got threatened by people. I would get stuck in the mud because I was like in
Yeah.
Cowtown, and I would just be like upset all the time and exhausted all the time, and it was like making me upset to like play shows and stuff. Like I felt like my feelings about that job were like turning my shitty feelings about everything else, like exponentially worse. And then I was losing my mind, and like by the time like fall came around, I had it and I quit. Like, and they offered me like 6 more weeks to get through the holidays for like a raise or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, they're just going to keep trying to pull me back into this job because I was good. I was good enough at it that they really liked having me around. So then what I did was I booked a flight like on Christmas Eve to Europe or whatever, just to like put myself back in like a perspective where I didn't have to like be a slave to something that I didn't want to be a part of, you know? And I
Stick it
was
to the
like,
man.
yeah, and it wasn't even like I was sticking it to, I was more sticking it to myself, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I felt like totally like helpless and like powerless in the situation. So then I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to like do something with like all this effort I've been putting to like just bring myself to like a better place. And I just booked this flight and I spent all of February in Europe. And I remember specifically like being at the Eiffel Tower in Paris and thinking like, man, I can do whatever the fuck I want. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It
The
was
world's
like,
your
it was,
oyster.
yeah, I wasn't even
That's a
trying
phrase.
to,
That's a saying, right?
yeah, the world is your oyster. I don't know if,
Open up.
yeah,
Open
but,
it up.
open it up, spread it. But yeah, I felt like that was something that I did to really like,
So you're saying I should spend all my savings and go to Europe?
yeah, definitely. That's what I did.
No,
I'm
dude,
like
that's
broke now.
that's what I want to do. That's when I graduate. I'm trying to go to Japan or whatever. Me and
I
you.
think it doesn't even have to be like that. It's just
Yeah.
like I think people need to realize that the things that are in our lives are only there because we put them there and like other
Oh yeah.
people tell us. And I think a lot of lately I've been, especially in the, well, to go back to Paris, when I was in Paris, I went to the Louvre and I was looking at all these old paintings and really nice, pristine artifacts. And I started to realize that like, you know, this is a lot of history, but it's like a lot of history just like of the wealthy and the classes of people that could afford to like have portraits of themselves and things
Yeah.
like that and have these like, and I was like, man, there's like a total absence of everyday people in this Louvre, you know what I mean? Like I guess some of the
Mhm.
French paintings had a lot more. Like I liked the French Revolutionary era stuff that was like a little more like turmoil and like beggars and portraits of like
Yeah.
street people, which was a lot more interesting. But those like, you know, those like really Italian or Spanish like Catholic paintings, they were like kind of eye rolly for me because I was like, wow, they're just really like they're just like rewriting like what is actually existence.
Right.
And I think like, you know, in our heads we're constantly told that we need to be like part of this, like, oh, go to college, like, oh, you need to be in this person to be like be a musician or whatever. And I am constantly reminded that like although we're like the farthest along technologically or culturally in like whatever Western sense of culture you think
Yeah.
we're progressing towards or whatever. I don't think we're the smartest people that have ever been on the planet, and I don't think we're any
Definitely not.
different than like some of the empires that were back then, and we're like still fueled by the same shitty ego and shitty resource mongering and selfishness and all those things. And I think like it really just like yeah, it was this weird like ego death thing, not to be all Joe Rogan about it, but
Then you did DMT
yeah, then I did a bunch of DMT
with a buddy of mine.
at Notre Dame or Notre Dame. I got to see
Dude, that's the thing. That's good that you went because you were able, dude.
you know, it's funny. I went to Notre Dame and it was nighttime, and I walked over to it and there was a line of people waiting outside to get in, and I went to the front of the line and I read the poster, and it was like an organ concert, and the guy was gonna play like some old classical pieces on the organ in Notre Dame, and it was like $30 to go for a ticket, and it was all these old people in line, and I thought about it and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be so bored like 15 minutes into this. I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah,
And then it
this will
burned
be
on
really
fire,
gorgeous.
you asshole.
I know. I was like, man, this is like probably gonna be really gorgeous, and like,
Yeah.
I get to be in there and like watch this like organist play and like hear the cathedral with the organ and everything. And then I was like, $30, and I'm gonna be like so uncomfortable like 20 minutes in by
Yeah.
myself while like listening to organ pieces.
Yeah, you
But
can
now
go.
I kind of regret it. I feel like I should
Yeah.
have gone
At
now
least you
because
saw it though.
yeah, I got to see all of it, and I didn't get to go inside. But you know,
Maybe it's
it's a
good you
big
didn't, dude.
it's a big church. You know, it's never gonna be the same. That's kind of a bummer.
Right. Well, so I guess to summarize that, what I'm hearing is like disconnect is kind of like what you did,
Yeah,
which honestly, like as you're saying it, I kind of in my head I was like, oh, I already did this because I took a month off social media, and now that I'm back on it, it's like all this stress and anxiety. Like I feel like I just have like a brick in my chest, and then like you said, it's like everything that's in our lives is put there, and it's unnecessary. Like I had this weird thing where I I was off everything, and I was getting emails from Instagram. Like they tell you like, "Oh, here's the thing that you've missed." Like, and it would email me if I got a new follower. And then in my head I was thinking, I apologized to my coworker. I was like, "Oh, sorry dude. You followed me and I didn't follow you back. I'll follow you back in a month when I get it back." And then in my head I was like, "Dude, that's crazy that I feel the need to apologize for something that doesn't exist."
yeah, exactly.
It's like literally just put there for no reason, and it's just this weight on your chest. I mean, I at least for some people, I know some people are able to like interact with social media in a positive way, which I do. It sucks because I for what we're trying to do and things that I like and just what I surround myself with, it's like almost necessary. Like
Right.
if I want to post this or whatever, I'm gonna need to promote it or post it somewhere. You can't just like Beyonce it or dark web it, like put it on. So it's this constant struggle, and the month off really showed me that you don't really miss anything, and
Yeah.
there's all this unnecessary stuff that goes with it. Like, yeah, I shouldn't feel bad about not responding to someone tagging me in a meme or whatever,
Yeah.
but you do because that's just like it's so ingrained in what society is today, is that it feels that's just what it is. It's like, oh man, I feel bad that I didn't. But I mean, I think either once I make it or once I give up on my dreams, I'm gonna get rid of social media. There's no point, dude.
Yeah. I know. I'm just like waiting for the day where I'm like comfortable enough to like feel like the opportunities that are out there for me aren't going to come to me on like Facebook or whatever, which they never do, but you know, you got to use it to like look things up and promote or
Yeah,
whatever the hell.
and
But
it's really powerful and positive, but it's also super negative too, especially with like where I am at my in my life right
yeah.
now. Like it was a good like refocus of like what's important and putting myself back on track and being more productive. But yeah, man, I hate it, dude. But it's like it's a necessary
Yeah, but it's
evil
like a
in creative.
disconnect.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a good to disconnect. It's good to disconnect, not like, yeah, like I disconnected from like whatever stressors I had in my life, in my country, you know, and I like went to some place where I was like, man, I'm like, we're really, really like so small on the scheme of like everything. And it makes you kind of, especially when I was over there, it just like melt away all the stress of like what you're supposed to be doing or what you're supposed to be or who you're trying to prove to or whatever.
Right.
And I wish like, I don't know, like I wish I had the intellect to really uh, communicate what I'm strongest at uh, in a professional way where like, yeah, I don't have to rely on my persona on social media, and I don't have to rely on like my resume or my music or whatever to like feel like I'm uh, a good person or like a
Yeah.
functioning person.
Also, a good reason to that I disconnected is because I would never be able to top that. I really, going back to what we were saying, like in my class where I was making those funny introductions and stuff. I don't know. I can't post anything else on Instagram.
Oh
It's not
yeah,
gonna
because
be
you,
as good as the video of the 100
yeah, that
likes.
video was amazing.
That I was just like at that point I was like, dude, I don't need it anymore. That dude, but that's this kind of stuff that I love social media for. It's like it's such a
Yeah,
it's such a good creative outlet for me at least. Like I love doing I people respond to it, people message me and that clearly that post like a lot of people liked. But it's just like little stuff like that is so it's you can't do it anywhere else. It's such a unique medium like social media for that kind of stuff.
I stopped myself from posting dumb jokes all the time. I feel like I wish I had the confidence to like just shit post all the time, but I'm also glad
Right.
that I'm not like annoying all these people with my jokes.
Yeah, there's a point where you go back. I mean, I'm sure everyone has that where when they first start on social media, like do you ever go back to your old Facebook posts? It's just like
I hate that
yeah.
like that on this day thing because it's always the cringiest stuff I
Yeah.
wrote like 8 years ago.
But you go back and I remember like I would post something to everyone that literally was directed to you and Jordan. Like some weird joke like in some different language of like our however some inside
Yeah.
joke we had. And I was like, "Why did I post that?" And I would post like multiple times a day. And so I'm really glad I'm at a
Yeah.
point where I feel like I don't really want to post or care to post unless it's something I think is really good. Or I mean not that like the stupid jokes I make on Instagram are really point like have a point to them, but just something that I think is good and like has a value to it or it's something that makes me laugh or makes my friends laugh or whatever.
There's this girl on my Facebook and I don't want to like make any assumptions, but she's one of those people that posts every single day everything she's doing at all times. And so you
Yeah.
get to see the everyday annoyances that she goes through and all these things that she has to like put up with, and at the same time the things that makes her excited, the things that make her happy or sad. And then recently she just like had a baby, and the way she posts about the baby all the time so frequently compared to like the stuff she used to post, it I f- I don't want to make the assumption like this is fact, but like it really feels like she literally birthed a baby so that she could post about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, that's the
like
dangers of social
the
media.
clo- the clothes she puts the baby in, and the posts that she makes, and the memes that she shares from like these mommy memes and things. And it was like, did she
Mommy
get like
memes.
bored with, yeah, like those like weird mom pages where it's like the hardest thing to do in the world is like motherhood, blah blah blah, or whatever, you know, and they're just like truth, you know.
We love mothers. We think it's you can't live without your
Which
mothers.
like of course they should be like proud of that sort of thing, but it's like the way they post about it and the way they
Yeah.
can like consume that sort of entertainment. It's like, did she literally like push a baby out of her puss just to post about how cute it is?
Oh my god.
It's so weird. It's so weird to like, just because it's like the products you buy and the shirts you put, like the onesie you put on a baby with like a joke. I wish I could remember one off the top of my head of like mommy's little like, oh, and there's like rainbow babies. You've heard of that
No, I don't think
term?
so.
A rainbow baby is a baby that follows a miscarriage,
Oh,
which,
okay.
so like I guess she like posted a bunch about that too, where like she was so strong because of the miscarriage that she went through, which like of course like that's a terrible thing to go through, but it's weird that you're like framing like your life, like she put like a onesie on him like I'm my mommy's rainbow baby or whatever, and it's like, you know, you're
Yeah.
like posturing your kid for this like glorifying some
Yeah,
sort
that's
of
weird.
like, and not to say that, you know, that what she's feeling or and I empathize with like whatever she's going through, but it's just a
Mhm.
weird way to put your life out there and display your life. You know, it's
Yeah.
not,
It's
and I
it's
don't
the
think it's
public
like,
nature of it that is problematic.
yeah,
I think.
I'm not saying,
If you make
I'm
it
not saying
private,
that,
yeah,
yeah, I'm not saying that it's not reality or it's not anything like that. It's like her perception of the way she wants to be. But
Mm-hmm.
to me personally, it's like, man, it's an odd way of being a human, because it's like
Yeah,
motherhood in this weird digital diary way. It's weird.
yeah. I think that's a thing. I was listening to something recently, and it's becoming a thing where, and it's honestly kind of a cool idea. But yeah, if you're posting this stuff public, it's weird. But I think it's a thing where you make an account for your baby, and then when they turn 10 or whatever, you give them the Instagram password,
Oh my
and then they
god.
can see like, and then like all the captions are like, "I love my mommy" or whatever.
Oh
Which is
no.
oh, it's like a modern day like Zoomer baby book.
Yeah. And
It's just like
here's
like memes of you taking your first poop or whatever.
and here's my stand up. Here's my stand up bit. I'm gonna break into my stand up routine.
Oh
right
gosh.
now, right?
Yeah.
I get on Instagram. Hold on, wait. So you guys been on Instagram lately? What's with the
Is
what's
that like
with,
Jay Leno?
yeah? What's with all these bitches climbing shit? I go on Instagram one day everybody's posting pictures of their butts. The next thing I know, they're climbing up sides of cliffs. No, because I feel like
That's it.
everybody on my well, I've got to work it out. I got to come up with some punchlines,
That's good.
but it's weird. Like I feel like working out was too basic, so now people have to one up it by like climbing mountains.
Yeah.
Like these
Dude,
like
it's all-
bouldering and stuff.
It's all Alex Honnold's fault, dude.
Yeah.
Free solo, which
I know.
I feel like I'm guilty of that. Once I watched that, I like wanted to go climb a mountain.
There's
But then you realize you're like, oh damn, this is crazy.
there's a bouldering gym right down the street from me, and I went there once, and it was really fun actually. It's a
Yeah.
more entertaining way to work out or something, but it felt like a flip of a switch. Like all of a sudden everybody on my Instagram was like scaling rocks.
Yeah. Yeah, just like that.
And I want to do that. Yeah, that's my open mic bit though. Like bitches, all of a sudden all
That's
these
good.
bitches are climbing shit.
There you go. All right,
There you
dude.
go.
We'll end on that. A little preview of your
A little
your
preview
stand-up
of what's
bit.
coming.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna do an open mic by the end of 2019.
I think I will too. I honestly wrote something out the other day, but it was literally just like I'll have one funny joke, and then I like have to build like a paragraph around it, and then I realize like there's no setup, or it's just like one line that I want to say.
Yeah, it's just building it is so weird because I consider myself like funny or have a sense of humor, but
It's a whole nother
it's
level.
it's a complete, and it's so funny. Like you watch like Tony Hinchcliffe Kill Tony, and like you see the kind of people that are like, I'm funny, I can do stand up, and they get up there and they bomb. It's like I don't
like,
want to
no,
be
dude.
I don't want to be that person.
Yeah. But awesome. Yeah, dude. Perfect. Yeah, for the first series or episode for this, whatever I want to call this podcast series or whatever, I thought yours would be the best thing.
It's a good start.
What's something you want to recommend to someone, whether it be a meme, a movie, an album, your own project? What's something you want people to look that will just kind of give them an idea of you or what you're into right now? Just whatever.
What I'm into right now, well, I've been into the pyramids lately. I don't recommend anybody check that out because it's stupid that I'm even into it right now. But I
Just
think
pyramids in general?
yeah, well, I was
The
talking to
shape
my
or like
No,
Egyptian pyramids?
I was on Easter Sunday. On Easter Sunday, I was at my friend Ryan's house, and our friend Romero, who was like in Rotten Mangoes and Black Angels, he came over and he was like talking about how he got really into the pyramids, and he was talking about how like the dimensions and stuff line up with like true north and like dead center
Yeah.
and the landmass and like all these mathematical and like architectural feats that they did like thousands and thousands of years ago that are still unexplained. Not even in like a psychic like supernatural way, but like that thing of like I think some parts of history have been forgotten, and like people like the ancient Egypt people that built the pyramids are actually like were a lot more intelligent and like forward thinking. But they also
Yeah.
had like infinite slave labor, so that could have played into it too. But I don't know. Don't check out that though. Actually,
Shout out pyramids.
if anybody's listening, you know, I'm out here in Austin, Texas. I'm playing music. I don't want to promote anything that I'm putting out, except for specifically I produced a record for one of the most underrated bands in town called Unpopular.
Oh
And
yeah, dude.
I just wrapped up mixing it, and it should come out like soonish. You know, we're not rushing it or anything, but definitely be on the lookout because they're one of the most entertaining bands in town. And I want to put out the best new band in Austin is a band called Blood that I have friends
Blood?
of mine. I don't think they have a lot on the internet right now, but definitely be on the lookout because they're gonna be they're gonna grow bigger than what they are now for sure, like faster than I can even see it. And then also Being Dead cemented as the best
Being Dead. There you
Austin
go.
band. Those are the
That
three
song,
things
that one
I'm-
song you did for them is like so good.
You should check out their EP they just dropped. It's like really really good. It's like 4 or 5
Yeah.
songs. But yeah, check out those bands.
All right.
Check out
There you go. Check out
Patrick.
Unpopular.
Check out
Blood.
.org.
There you go. Check out .org. We're playing a show on Saturday, or this probably. I'll maybe put this up soon. Who knows?
Should I do
Yeah,
dates?
dude. Yeah, do dates. Where are you coming up?
May 3rd at the church, May 11th at ABGB, May 12th at Cheer Up Charlie's with Honeycut. I'm playing with Honeycut
Oh,
in
really?
like 2 weeks. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, everyone go fly out to Austin, go see Riley.
Check it out. I love you
Yeah.
guys. I love you, Patrick.
All right, I love you, dude.
We
Give
will-
Riley some love. Follow him on Instagram. I'll plug your Instagram. Us talking crap about social media, we're gonna plug it.
Plug
yeah.
our socials.
Thanks, dude. Love you. I'll see you soon.
God bless, peace, and love.
Ja ja.